The shocking truth. Who were the mysterious sons of God before Adam? Must watch now. In a world that often feels painted in shades of gray, there lies a mystery soaked in blood-red hues and shimmering golden secrets, the enigmatic sons of God. Before Adam breathed his first, legends whisper of celestial beings, stunningly beautiful, yet terrifyingly powerful. Imagine beings who walked upon the earth, cloaked in divine light, their eyes gleaming like molten gold, capable of creating worlds with a mere whisper. These weren't just myths. Clutched in ancient scrolls, tales spoke of beings that defied time, known only to a few. The air crackled with tension the moment the sun dipped below the horizon. Shadows danced on the walls, and a growing unease settled in the pit of gut. It's said that on the night of the last harvest moon, the earth trembled as these secrets clawed their way to the surface. Glimpses of forgotten realms flickered in the corner of one's eye, vines growing wild, twisting into the shape of words long lost. Could it be? Were they trying to communicate? Those lucky, or perhaps cursed enough to witness this dark, ancient gathering described sights, so unexpected they could be been torn from the pages of a nightmare. A group of shadowy figures formed a circle, their low chants lulling the restless winds. The energy coiled around them, thick with anticipation. It felt as though the very earth held its breath, waiting for something monumental, something devastatingly beautiful to unfold. But with every rising question, uncertainty clawed its way into hearts. Who were these figures? Were they saviors or harbingers of doom? A nearby villager whispered of cousins lost to the twilight, souls entangled in fate, murmuring words that could crack the very foundation of existence. The crowd held their breath, eyes wide with an uneasy mix of fear and fascination, captivated while shivering in the dark night's chill. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. But as whispers turned to shouts, one figure broke from the circle, locking eyes with the incredulous crowd. The depth of despair danced in their gaze, a hint of urgency spilling forth. Then, in a voice that echoed like thunder, they revealed a shocking truth that sent a wave of questions crashing through the hearts of all present. What had the sons of God truly intended for mankind? As the night deepened, the growing tension hinted at something even darker. What terrible fate lay ahead? The crowd began to murmur, a cacophony of confusion and dread. The shrouded figure, a being of ethereal beauty, stepped closer, illuminating the night with a soft glow that emanated from their very being. Listen, they urged, voice heavy with the weight of ages. What you thought you knew about creation, your existence, everything you've ever feared, it's all woven into a tapestry of lies. Hands shook as the villagers exchanged worried glances. Silence fell, thick and heavy. The atmosphere crackled as if the very skies were holding their breath. Before Adam, we were the guardians of the sphere, the keepers of wisdom. The figure continued, their eyes locking onto each soul present. We were sent to guide, to protect. But our purpose, it has grown corrupted. A gasp echoed through the crowd. Corruption? What darkness lurked beneath the surface of their beginnings? The air turned heavy with despair, shadows lengthening as if time itself conspired against their understanding. The sons of God were not angels or mere spirits. We were warriors forged in the heat of the stars, tasked with maintaining balance. But envy, pride, these things fractured our mission. Mankind, you became our greatest trial. And with your awakening, our darkest secrets surfaced. One villager stepped forward, heart racing, voice trembling. Why reveal this now? What are we meant to do with this truth? Because the harbingers of doom are awakening once more, the figure replied, their tone sharp as a blade. The balance teeters on the edge, and the sons who fell are stirring from their slumber. The cries of the forgotten echo in the silence, reaching for vengeance. They will seek what was lost, and mankind, you will be caught in the crossfire. You must prepare. Panic rippled through the crowd like an electric shock. People turned on each other, their breaths quickening with fear. Vengeance. Lost sons? Another voice cried out, rising above the chaos. How can we possibly hope to survive against beings who once held the power to craft worlds? Knowledge is your only weapon, the figure said, urgency underlying each word. Understand your history. The rituals, the chants, the lost scrolls, they are your only hope. But tread carefully, for even gathering this knowledge may awaken more than you bargained for, and just like that, the glow around the figure faded, plunging the gathering back into oppressive darkness. The last words echoed, a haunting whisper that curled through the air. Knowledge is your only weapon. In the gathering gloom, fear morphed into determination. Those present felt the looming shadows of uncertain future press down upon them. What could they uncover? What dangers lay in their quest for truth? But just as the villagers began to regroup, resolve hardening within them, a guttural roar erupted from the forest. Trees quaked, and the ground beneath their feet shuddered. What was that? Someone screamed. From the darkness, piercing eyes fastened on the frightened crowd, glowing like molten gold. The hunt had begun. The figures edged closer from the forest's embrace. A new wave of dread pierced the heart of the gathering. Would they uncover the truth in time, or would they fall prey to the very darkness the figure warned them about? The question hung in the air. What lay beyond the horizon of revelation? The ground trembled beneath the frantic feet of the villagers as a sense of urgency clawed at their insides. Shadows loomed, creeping from the forest, merging into the fear spreading through the crowd. Panic erupted, voices raised in a chaotic chorus. Everyone moved in a blur, their heartbeats matching the restless pulse of the earth, quick and heavy. What do we do? A woman cried, her face pale, hands clasped over her mouth, eyes darting nervously. She felt the primal instinct to flee gnawing at her gut. Stand your ground, shouted a tall man, his fists clenched, a makeshift confidence boiling over. But even he wavered as more monstrous eyes gleamed, hungry and ominous in the darkness. Suddenly, the air shifted, thickening as if suffocating them. A deep growl rippled through the night, vibrating in their bones. The trees bent ominously, branches twisting like gnarled fingers reaching to snatch them away. Fear had become tangible, a heavy fog settling over the villagers, but amidst the panic, something else stirred curiosity. A handful of villagers exchanged speculative glances. Was there truly something hidden in their past? A dark secret to uncover? Could knowledge be their shield against this impending doom? The shrouded figure's words echoed in Maria's mind, logic battling with primal instinct. Knowledge, the mere thought, raised a flicker of determination within her. The scrolls. We must find them, she shouted, breaking through the chaos, voice ringing against the dark. Silence fell for just a heartbeat. Hope had sparked within the crowd, igniting their frantic despair. The collective gaze turned to a young boy, Thomas, son of the village historian. No one knew the text better than he. But would he have the courage to face the darkness? Just then, a figure broke free from the forest's edge, a creature large and feral, emerging from behind the twisted trees. It had the form of a beast, massive and powerful, eyes of flame with a hellish light. The creature let out a bark that sent shivers racing down everyone's spine. I'll help, Thomas stammered, his voice breaking. He fought against the fear that clutched his throat. We need to find the hidden pages. They might still be in the library. Head spinning, Maria grabbed Thomas's arm, urging him toward the only safe haven they knew, the old library hidden at the edge of town, a relic of forgotten times and untold secrets. Run, she shouted, their feet pounding against the dirt, hearts pounding in tandem. The beast roared again, a primal echo of wrath, snapping its jaw inches from the fleeing villagers. They sprinted, adrenaline spurring them forward as the shadows of the past gathered like hungry wolves behind them. Where once confusion reigned, now a collective drive surged among the group. The library loomed ahead, old and shadowy, yet somehow inviting. As they burst through the door, the familiar musty scent filled their lungs, offering a strange comfort amid the chaos. Here, the scrolls, Thomas gasped, pointing towards a brittle parchment tucked away behind rubble, a thin glimmer of hope against unfathomable darkness. But just as hands reached for the fragile pages, a thunderous crash echoed from outside, shaking the very foundations of the library. The beast had followed. "Are you ready for the truth?" Thomas asked, eyes wide with fear, and before anyone could respond, the creature's breath, hot and rancid, swept into the room. The tension coiled tighter. Would they dare to unveil the secrets that could either save them or condemn them all? What awaited them in the pages of their past? With danger creeping ever closer, they stood at the precipice of revelation, poised on the edge of oblivion. What truths would the scrolls reveal, and would they be strong enough to face what lay within? As the creature's rancid breath filled the library, Maria felt an ice-cold grip clutch her heart. She glanced at Thomas, who stood frozen, wide-eyed as the thunderous growls echoed around them. The heat from the beast seeped into the room, mixing with the dust and age-old paper, creating a cloud of impending dread. "Now!" Maria yelled, urgency slicing through her fear. They had to act before the beast burst in. The scrolls might hold the key to their survival, but they also whispered of long-buried histories that could change everything. Thomas scrambled towards the parchment, clumsily moving aside fallen books and debris. His fingers trembled as he reached for the fragile scroll, a sinewy ribbon of hope amidst chaos. Maria's heart raced. With each passing moment, the creature thrashed outside, clawing at the wooden door, a frenzied rhythm that mirrored their mounting terror. "We can't let it in," she warned, gripping a nearby chair, turning it into a makeshift barrier against the door. "Hurry!" With a frantic motion, Thomas pulled the scroll free and unraveled it, the brittle fibers crackling in the still air. The villagers crowded around, peering over Thomas's shoulder, their breaths held in collective anticipation. "What does it say?" Someone whispered, their voice barely above a breath, as if the wrong word could draw the beast's attention. As Thomas read, his brow furrowed deeper. It speaks of the ancients, sons of God, born of fire and shadow. They roamed the earth before Adam. Before he could finish, another resounding crash shook the library, sending dust cascading from the rafters. Fear splintered across their faces. What did that mean for them? Were these celestial beings the very reason for the creature's wrath? "Get to the cellar," a woman shouted. Panic surged, but Maria held her ground, unwilling to drop the scrolls yet. "Wait," she urged. "We have to know what this means. We need to, Maria. We don't have time." Thomas shouted, glancing at the door as splinters began to give way. Yet curiosity battled against the instinct to flee. In that fraught moment, Thomas's eyes widened even further. "There's more. It says they were cast out, sealed away to protect the world. But if broken, they could return." A collective gasp echoed through the group. The villagers' faces turned ghostly pale, shadows dancing in the flickering light, a stark contrast to the deluge of fear flooding their hearts. "What if this beast is one of them?" Maria whispered, stunned. If the scrolls were right, then whatever had been sealed away might be far worse than they could imagine. "Then we must finish reading," Thomas cried back, though uncertainty marked his voice. As he continued, the air thickened, brimming with hints of magic and myth colliding with their grim reality. Each word sent shivers up their spines, tales of power, betrayal, and shadows swallowing the light around them. Then the door burst open, the creature looming as darkness poured in. The villagers stumbled back, terror flaring in their eyes, but in that chaotic moment, something unexpected shattered the mounting dread. Maria, clenching the chair, turned back to Thomas. "Tell me quick. How do we send it back?" "There's a binding ritual." "But I can't do it alone," Thomas exclaimed, almost breathless. The beast let out a piercing, inhuman shriek, shaking the walls of the library, echoing ominously in their ears. "Then let us do it together," Maria yelled, her own voice shaking yet resolute. "Just tell us what to do." In that chaotic instant, they felt the weight of potential destruction bearing down on them. But along with that weight was a spark of determination, a sense of unity igniting within them. Would the combined strength of their courage and resolve be enough? As they formed a huddled circle, the ancient words swirling around them, the creature shifted in the threshold, ready to leap. Could they truly defy the darkness that lurked just beyond their reach? A moment hung in the air, heavy with suspense, waiting for a decision that could change everything: life or death, salvation or doom. Would they embrace the perilous truth? Would they summon the strength to seal away what had been unwittingly unleashed? The answers danced painfully out of reach, yet the journey into the spiraling depths of their fate had only just begun. Maria's heart thundered in her chest as she and the villagers joined hands, the fear radiating from the creature stretching taut like a wire about to snap. "What do we say?" she urged, glancing nervously at Thomas, whose face was pale but focused. "The words," he replied, voice strained. "We need to recite the binding incantation. It's here, just follow my lead." He took a deep breath, his voice gathering strength, and began to chant the ancient text, the syllables tumbling from his lips like falling leaves. Darkness roiled around the creature as its massive form filled the doorway, limbs tangling and shifting, glowing fangs glistening in the light of their flickering candles. The stench of decay washed over them, and Maria fought the nausea rising in her throat. She squeezed the hands beside her, feeling the fear of the others bolster her own resolve. "Now, repeat after me," Thomas called. The villagers echoed him, their words a fragmented symphony of uncertainty and desperation. With each syllable, the creature recoiled, its hellish growls morphing into guttural snarls. Closer now, the beast's eyes glowed with a malevolence that radiated heat. Maria could feel its breath wash over her, a wave of rancid air that made her skin crawl. But each time they spoke the incantation, shards of light cut through the gloom, pushing the creature back an inch at a time. "Let the cycle not be broken," Thomas cried, and the voice of the villagers harmonized with his, a united chant. The air grew electrified, humming with raw power, and Maria shut her eyes tight, imagining a barrier forming, pushing the darkness away. But suddenly, the creature lunged, a mass of fur and rage bursting forth, and the doorframe splintered under its weight. The villagers gasped, stumbling backward, terror exploding in the small library. Maria's eyes shot open. "Hold on," she screamed, gripping Thomas's wrist, willing the energy to strengthen around them. Thomas's voice wavered for just a moment. "Concentrate, everyone. The ritual demands our belief." And then it hit her, a sudden realization as profound as the weight of despair that filled the room. It's not just the words that bind it. We need to believe, truly believe in our power. Believe. The group echoed, and Maria felt the air thrum with an invisible force, as if the very fabric of reality shifted with their unity. But the creature charged again, this time breaking through the last of their defenses, sending the villagers flying like leaves on a gust of wind. Maria felt herself stumble, falling onto the cold library floor. The scrolls were within reach, yet the creature loomed over her, pulsating with rage and hunger. "Maria?" Thomas shouted from somewhere behind the beast, but his voice was drowned out by the roar of the creature, a scream that resonated deep in her bones. "There's no way out," a villager cried, backing towards the crumbling shelves as the creature turned its attention towards them, malice glimmering in its serpentine gaze. In that terrible moment, a spark ignited deep within Maria. She crawled towards the scrolls, her fingers trembling but determined, desperate to grasp the words that could save them. She could not let darkness claim them, not yet. As she reached for the parchment, a blinding flash surged through the library, a whirlwind of energy disrupting the space. The scroll glowed, illuminating the beast with a searing light. It howled, thrashing against the shockwave, and Maria felt her heart surge with a new fear. What were they truly awakening? "Together!" she shouted, pushing herself up and gripping the scroll tightly, her resolve igniting the spark within the villagers once more. "We can do this. We have to do this. Believe." The force surrounding them surged, and as they recited the words again, the library erupted into chaos. The creature thrashed, desperate to pull away from the light, but it was too late. "Do you feel it?" Thomas gasped, eyes wide, overwhelmed by the power surging through the group. But there was something else, a rumbling beneath the chant, like a heartbeat out of sync with their own. The scrolls pulsed rhythmically in Maria's hand, echoing a melody of ancient sorrow and pain. What else had the ancients sealed away? As shadows warped and twisted, the creature's eyes widened in fear, though another force was rising, an energy wrapped in ancient mystery and pain. Suddenly, with an earth-shattering roar, the creature lunged forward again, that flame of malevolence exploding in a final desperate attempt to break their bond. Finish it. Now, Maria screamed, her voice cutting through the chaos, frantic and determined. But in that moment, as the last word left her lips and the scrolls erupted in radiant light, Maria's heart stilled. What true horrors lay awaiting them if they succeeded? The flames flared, and the world around them dimmed, ready to reveal its darkest secrets. The air crackled with energy, thick and palpable. A blinding light swallowed the library, casting long shadows that flickered like wraiths against the walls. Maria's heart raced, a frantic drum echoing in her ears. She could hardly breathe as the incantation spilled from her lips, each word fueling the frenetic dance of light and darkness around her. But then she felt it a shift, a disruption in the energy they had harnessed. The radiant light faltered, flickering like a candle in the wind, and doubt slithered into her chest. It was as though the very fabric of reality was being torn, a shadow tearing through her hope, and she suddenly felt small, insignificant. Maria? Thomas's voice broke through her muddled thoughts. We have to focus. Don't let your mind wander. His face was a mixture of determination and terror, shimmering with the light, but she could see the uncertainty behind his eyes. We can't, she began, but the ground shook beneath them, and the walls of the library echoed a terrifying growl that rattled her bones. The creature, agitated and seething, twisted as if caught in a web of light and shadow, trying to escape its binding fate. Believe, declared a villager beside her, grasping the air, eyes wide with fear but glowing with potential. Believe, or it consumes us. Maria's chest tightened. What if their belief was the only thing tethering them to this reality? What if their fear was what made it all possible? She glanced around at the frightened but determined faces, every single one of them tied into this last desperate push against the encroaching dark. With a fierce resolve, she squeezed the scroll tighter, channeling her energy into its ancient script. We can defeat this. Together. As the words tumbled forth, the creature let out another bone-chilling roar. It was desperate, wild, a primal scream as the light fought to break through the oppressive darkness cocooning it. With every uttered phrase, flickers of light danced around them, warping the edges of the library and revealing unseen horrors that lurked just beyond their comprehension. Maria's pulse quickened as she sensed something more, deeper within the scroll. Was it fear or a warning? A flicker of insight raced through her mind. What if we're summoning more than we can control? She thought. Push faster, Thomas yelled, eyes blazing with fervor, urging the villagers to recite the binding words louder. She felt their energy blend, a collective heartbeat echoing through the air, but something darker stirred, lingering in the shadows. The creature's form rippled as it charged, undulating with rage and hunger. Maria stumbled back, heart hammering. The scroll pulsed hot in her hands, a pulse that throbbed in rhythm to a heartbeat that sounded eerily familiar. Something's wrong. A villager cried, eyes wide. We're not just binding it. We're unleashing something else. The swirling energy around them shifted again, and with horror, Maria realized what was happening. The light was expanding, not only binding the creature, but also tearing at something deeper, releasing old, forgotten energies that twisted around the beast like chains. Finish it, another villager cried. But as they spoke, the light pierced the shadows deeper, revealing images from the past, haunting visions swirling through the air like ghosts. Shadows of figures, draped in ancient robes, and faces of those who had come before her raced like echoes through the chaotic light. What are we awakening? Maria gasped as their chant grew louder, more frantic, the power reaching a fever pitch. Sweat dripped down her back, every nerve ending screaming for her to hold on. But deep down, a gnawing dread rooted itself in her heart. Below the thundering chaos, a whisper reached her, softer than the roar. Finish it, but beware. With a forceful push, the villagers joined their voices as one. Their unity felt almost unstoppable, yet just beneath the surface of their determination lay a tremor of uncertainty. Would they unleash more terror than they could possibly contain? The creature let out a final, earth-shattering roar, its form melding with the fabric of the light, and time seemed to stretch into eternity as reality wobbled. In that pivotal moment, Maria realized the truth. They weren't just fighting for their survival. They were at the precipice of awakening something ancient, something that lingered far deeper than the creature before them. What depths of horror lay just beneath the surface, waiting for them to make the ultimate choice? Would they find the strength to truly believe, or had they unleashed an even darker fate upon themselves? The roar of the creature shattered the air, an overwhelming crescendo that sent waves of fear through the throng gathered in the library. It echoed in Maria's bones, a reminder that time was slipping away. The beast writhed against the tendrils of light that bound it, desperate for freedom, and yet, the visions grew more vivid. Phantoms danced in the flickering glow, calling out from the dark recesses of history. "Look!" Thomas shouted. A mix of awe and horror splattered across his features. "What do you see?" Maria strained her eyes, squinting against the blinding light, and her breath caught in her throat. Figures loomed, figures dressed in tattered robes with hollow eyes that seemed to pierce through her very soul. They weren't just shadows. They were memories, souls trapped for ages, now clawing their way back to existence. "Ancestors," murmured a villager next to her, eyes wide with terror. The air turned cold, the warmth of their shared energy receding like a tide. What do they want? She thought, panic mingling with an eerie sense of understanding. Their fates seemed intertwined with the creature. Did this binding on the surface release something far worse hidden beneath layers of time? "Stay strong." Thomas's voice rang out again. "If we falter, we risk everything." The urgency of his words was a lifeline, but a sinking dread followed. For every word they chanted, the light flickered stronger, pulling down the curtain on the veil of their pasts. Each incantation seemed to tear into the spirit realm, and the shadows writhed with uncertainty, their faces twisting into anguished screams. It was a macabre display. Their lost cries surged forward, blending with the chanting of the villagers until it turned into a cacophony, a chorus of souls crying for release. "What have we done?" Maria gasped, realization crashing upon her. They were not just binding a creature. They had opened a portal, a gateway to a past filled with forgotten horrors, remnants of entities both ancient and powerful. "Close it!" Someone screamed. "Don't let them out." But fear threatened to unravel them. The scroll in her hands felt heavier, pulsating with a dark energy, and as Maria squeezed it tighter, a vision heaved forth. She saw herself standing not in the library but in an ancient realm filled with towering trees and flickering flames, where those tortured souls roamed, clawing for some form of salvation. "Finish the spell," Thomas cried, his voice cracking, panic spilling into every syllable. The creature screeched, and the villagers' voices rose in frantic unity. "Together, remember? Believe," Maria shouted, willing her voice to rise above the chaos. But doubt gnawed at the edges of her mind. What if their collective belief was just a flickering flame that would extinguish at any moment? The creature surged closer, its form blurring with the twisting light. If they faltered now, she knew they wouldn't just risk their lives, they would risk unearthing a horror far beyond anything they could comprehend. "Push," she cried, feeling energy pulse through her like an electric shock. "We have to push through the darkness." Desperation cracked her voice as she fought the rising tide of dread. Visions spiraled again, a whirlwind of forgotten histories peering back, urging her forward, or perhaps warning her. Maria's heart raced wildly as she fought the tremors creeping into her bones. Was she strong enough? Should she go on? The battleground of willpower was suffocating and raw. "Do not let fear overwhelm. We will succeed," Maria shouted. And as the last words slipped from her lips, the shadows halted, the energy in the air trembled. But in that exact moment of stillness, a deeper ripple cascaded through the fabric of reality, the shadows freezing as if sensing a change, something formidable awakening beneath layers of darkness, lurking just out of sight. Could it be that they were not simply fighting against the creature, but something much greater? Something that thrived on their fear and uncertainty? Maria felt a cold chill creep up her spine. There was an answer just beneath the surface, an answer that could change everything. Would they find the courage to confront the truth waiting in the depths of the dark? Or would it consume them whole before they could even perceive what lay ahead? A ripple of tension flowed through the crowd, the villagers' faces pallid as shadows danced perilously close. The creature loomed, fitful and hungry, caught between dimensions. Maria's fingers trembled on the scroll, a war of wills raging within her. It felt like standing on the brink of a chasm, her heart pounding to a frantic beat in her chest. "Hold steady," she shouted again, trying to reignite the spark of belief in them. But the air thickened with doubt, each flicker of light dimming under the weight of dread. Thomas turned, his expression a mix of something close to despair and fierce determination. "You have to believe, Maria. This is your moment." His voice cracked with anguish, urging her as if her very essence held their fate. A distant rumble filled the air, a deep, resonating growl that coursed through the library like a tremor. Ghostly wisps swirled closer, the faces of the trapped souls merging and breaking apart like smoke. They reached out, pleading for release, their hollow gazes reflecting Maria's own inner turmoil. "What does it want?" A woman sobbed from the back of the crowd, eyes wide with fear. A simple question, yet it hung heavily in the air, weaving through the weak threads of courage. "Do they know?" Maria whispered to herself, barely audible above the din. She felt their anguish deep within her, a pulse of history that threatened to consume her entirely. The spell was meant to bind, but it had become an invocation, a call to arms from the lost. Tendrils of light from the scroll flickered sporadically, casting erratic shadows that created nightmarish shapes on the stone walls. Each flap of energy seemed to counter the creature's growing desperation. With every incantation, Maria sensed something shift in the depths of her consciousness. This wasn't merely a spectral battle, it was a tug of war over allegiance, faith against fear. The warmth of collective power began to chill. "What if we are already too late?" she thought, anxiety clawing at her insides. She shook her head sharply. No, they weren't done yet. "Believe, damn it," she shouted, pouring every ounce of will and conviction into her voice. "We will not be afraid." The creature responded, a violent thrash that sent the light into a chaotic frenzy. Shadows grew long, and a sinister laughter echoed in the corners of the library, shaking the very foundations. "You think you can hold what lies beyond?" It taunted, a sneer that sliced through their unity like a razor. In that moment, an idea flickered. What if they had it all wrong? What if the creature was not their enemy but a guardian of sorts, protecting them from something far worse? The thought sent a chill down Maria's spine, deepening the knot of dread in her gut. "Together. Close it. Close the portal." Thomas's urgent voice cut through her thoughts. "Now." He beckoned fiercely, pulling her back to reality. Maria lifted her head, eyes gleaming with fear and determination. On 3, 1, 2 before she could finish, a blinding flash erupted from the scroll, crashing against the overwhelming darkness. A scream, long and echoing, suddenly pierced through the chaos. It wasn't just the creature, it was the anguished wail of souls losing grip on their very essence. "No," she screamed, reaching out desperately. The shadows buckled and coiled, pulling at everything they had fought for. This was the breaking point, and they were staring into the abyss. Then, in that chilled air thick with foreboding, a voice resonated deep and ancient, echoing from the depths of history. It was laden with sorrow, with finality. Release us. If they couldn't seal this rift, all would be lost. Maria's heart thundered. She had to make a choice. Save herself or risk everything for the faint hope of redemption. "Now, Maria, push," Thomas shouted, his hands outstretched, and for a terrifying moment, she hesitated. But could she trust him? Could she trust the creature? With one breath, she leaped forward, ready to confront the unseen force threatening to emerge from the shadows. Would her next choice seal their fate, or ignite an even greater horror? Something waited, lurking in the fissures of reality, something that dwelled in the darkness. What truth would they uncover just beneath the veil of their fears? The blinding flash enveloped Maria, time slowing as she stepped into the eye of chaos, her heart a caged bird thrumming against the bars of panic. She could feel Thomas's presence behind her, the weight of his faith clinging like a warm cloak amidst the cold tendrils of darkness. "Release us," echoed again, but now it sounded less like a plea and more like a command. Chills raced down her spine as shadows thickened, coiling around her like serpents ready to strike. This was no simple spell. It was a confrontation with the fabric of their reality. What if the true nature of the creature was hidden in its despair? The whispered thoughts crashed against her mind like wild waves, tossing her between dread and curiosity. Was this being not their enemy, but what they needed saving from? But no time to dwell. With a surge of resolve, she raised the scroll higher, chanting the incantation as her voice pierced through the confusion. The air shimmered, sparking with residue of ancient power, igniting the dimly lit room with a flickering glow. "We call upon the light," Maria cried. "We demand release." At her words, the room trembled. The creature recoiled, its tortured form trembling between dimensions, a distortion of anguish and rage. The tormented faces of the spirits filled the air, swirling like ocean waves, each one desperately reaching out, imploring Maria to let them through. But who were they? The question loomed heavy as the shadows twisted and writhed, the laughter fading to sinister whispers. The villagers around her seemed entranced, their gazes fixed on the unfolding scene, mouths agape and breath held. Only Thomas stayed steady, his hands still held high in faith, his eyes locked on Maria. There was a flicker, a rift, barely noticeable at first, like a bead of water rolling down a window pane. Maria's stomach dropped. Is this it? She thought, a mixture of hope and dread swirling within her. If they let the souls out, what of the creature? Pull them back. Someone cried, voice cracking with fear. What if they bring the darkness with them? Stop. You need to trust, Maria shouted, forcing her way through the rising panic. They deserve peace. She could feel Thomas's strength propelling her, infusing her trembling hands with the necessary weight of hope. The air grew thick, almost tangible, as the cries of the spirits crescendoed into a haunting symphony. "We are lost. Set us free." The words wrapped around her heart like a noose, tightening with desperation. Suddenly, the scroll vibrated violently in her grip. A familiar warmth enveloped her, a flicker of light igniting within her core as she began to understand the creature wasn't just a guardian, nor merely an adversary. It was a gatekeeper, caught in its own tragic loop, yearning for liberation just as much as the souls it held. Together, Maria cried out, her voice an unwavering beacon. "Believe," she called on the villagers, urging them to lend their faith as she poured her energy into the spell. They had to break this cycle, to transform their fear into power. But as shadows swirled faster, a sudden realization tore through her. The blinding light wasn't meant to ward off the darkness, it was the darkness that danced with illumination. What if embracing it was the key? Before she could act, a newfound intensity gripped her, pulling at the very essence of her being. Desperation surged through her veins. What would she choose? To let go of everything she knew or to embrace the unknown? With her heart racing, Maria stepped toward the swirling mass of horror and hope, feeling the combined energies of the villagers and the soul's channel through her. As the shadows reached out to envelop her, she whispered a final incantation, one that dared to weave light into dark. But then, the world splintered. A piercing scream cut through the air, a sound so raw, it shattered her resolve. She felt a deep-rooted terror rumble through her. What had she unleashed? In the chaos of shifting shadows and blinding light, Maria realized one truth. By confronting the darkness, they had awakened something ancient, something that had been waiting for its moment to strike. As the colors swirled chaotically, she could barely hold her ground. What have I done? She thought in despair, caught between two worlds. And in that fleeting moment, Maria caught sight of a figure emerging from the depths, its features shrouded in darkness, but its intent clear, a commanding echo of power waiting to engulf them all. Was this creature their savior, or had they just summoned an even greater horror? The shadows danced excitedly around her, and with bated breath, she braced herself for the truth lurking just beyond the veil. The world erupted as the shadows and light battled fiercely in a swirling maelstrom, each flicker of luminescence met with waves of creeping darkness. Maria could feel the pulse of history around her, echoing the cries of lost souls, the chaos threatening to consume them all. "We want tea, let it take us," Maria shouted, her voice straining against the din. "Hold on. Believe." Driven by their shared resolve, the villagers echoed her words, yet the creature's roar cut through their unity like a jagged blade. The air crackled with energy, sparks flying from the scroll in her trembling hands as the ancient energy converged on a single point, a nexus of desperation and hope. "Push!" We know the truth now. Thomas rallied, his eyes alight with determination. It's time to seal the rift. As they united their voices, the scroll unleashed a blinding wave of light, illuminating the shadow's hidden forms. Those twisted souls of the ancients appeared more vividly, their hollow eyes pleading for mercy. They were not mere spirits. They were guardians of a forgotten legacy, caught in a cursed cycle. Release them, Maria urged, channeling her belief into every syllable. Let them go. A shimmering portal opened before her, light spilling like molten gold, and the conflicting energies surged around the creature, pulling at it in a tug-of-war for its existence. It howled again, yet this time, the sound held a note of sorrow, a longing that resonated deep within Maria. What if we set it free? Maria thought, doubt clawing at her heart. What if it holds the key to all of this? The scroll pulsed, weaving through her fingers like the breath of a slumbering giant awoken. The ancient warning echoed in her mind, a warning they all had to heed. But amidst the turmoil, she caught glimpses of truth hidden in the shadows, images of the creature and the ancients whose fates were entwined with it. Suddenly, clarity broke through the haze. The creature was a vessel for what had been sealed away and was now awakening. We need to change the spell, she cried, urgency flooding through her veins. Draw upon their stories. Our fears don't bind, our understanding does. The villagers looked to her, fear and hope mingling in their eyes. They felt at the root of their power alongside a wave of empathy growing around them. Together, Thomas echoed fiercely, rallying the villagers as their numbers surged to who they had been and who they could become. They grasped hands in a circle, the firelight encircling them as the shadows danced, drawing closer. Let us not fear, Maria urged, her voice sharpening with conviction. Let our voices echo through time, our stories giving strength to light. Just then, the rift expanded, pulling the creature toward it like a moth to flame. Its eyes glittered, fierce yet vulnerable, beckoning them to understand instead of judge. Don't falter now. A voice rang out as the chamber quaked. The villagers took a collective breath, letting their fear dissolve as Maria led them through a reimagined chant, words of release, enlightenment, and harmony. With each repetition, a new connection formed. The bittersweet stories of ancients echoed their own. Pieces of their past melded together, forging a tapestry of unity. The beast strained against the impending shift, as if being freed from shackles unseen. That a massive shudder rocked the air, and the thunderous cry of the creature morphed into something softer, a whisper of gratitude, a release they could all feel. The chains of unbridled rage fell away as locks that bound discontent began to clang open, shadows shifting to less oppressive hues, the wailing of souls transforming to a fervent song of joy. Release. Envelop all in light, they shouted, and with a final surge of will, an erupting light enveloped the library, consuming every shadow. The scroll crinkled, sending vibrations through the air as a whirlwind built, swirling around the creature and the villagers, all together, power coalescing into tendrils of brilliance shooting outward. As the light dissipated, silence enveloped the space, the darkness receding like a tide. The creature stood transformed. Ethereal grace replaced its former rage. It blinked, surprised, as the spirits surged forward, unshackled from the bonds that had long stifled them. Oh, we're free, it murmured, a soft timbre wrapping around them like a blanket. It bowed its head with respect, before a soft glow enveloped the remaining shadows, cradling the once tormented souls into the ether. Around them, the villagers exhaled, relief washing over each face. The echo of their triumph resonated through the ages, flickering as a testament to their belief, a story forged in shared pain, redemption, and unity. We did it, Thomas whispered, tears glimmering in his eyes. Maria nodded, heart swelling with something new. We learn not to fight what we do not understand, she said softly, glancing around at her friends. Together, we are stronger than any fear. A serene glow enveloped the library, leaving echoes of warmth where shadows once loomed, gently drifting into memories of what had been and what was yet to come. This was not simply an ending, it was a beginning, a new dawn transforming the fabric of their fate. As the group stepped out into the soft morning light, beams wrestling the last traces of night from the sky, They took in the world anew, colors brighter, hope alive in each heart. And in that moment, gripped by unbreakable bonds, they swore to guard the truths they uncovered, their story interwoven with the tales of those who came before them, forever echoing in their hearts. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Your engagement shapes our journey together. Join us for the next adventure.